As for thy testimonies, I have known long since that thou hast grounded them forever. Thus writes the psalmist. Good morning. I want to think today about the groundedness of Christian faith. Appropriately enough, I made the mistake yesterday of scrolling down the comments on a news tweet after one of my colleagues had commented on the political situation. Not a good idea if you want to see the best of human nature, but amongst the familiar criticisms were one saying, why listen to him? He's got an imaginary friend. And the idea of God being an imaginary friend is a common kind of dismissal of believers, but actually one I wanted to explore, because I think the child with an imaginary friend is onto something. Let me explain what I mean. I tend to think that imagination is our highest faculty for apprehending truth, and most of my friendships are imaginary, actually, to one degree or another, in the sense that they are partly constructed in my own mind and imagination. We might say to a friend, "Oh, I had imagined you'd say this," or you might have imagined I would say that. So who I am, or who the other person is partly constructed. It's partly who we make them to be in our mind. And certainly when it comes to thinking about God, imagination has to be employed, because we can't see God. The Bible tells us that, and we knew it anyway. We can't see God, therefore God has to be imagined. And certainly as we begin to think in these days in the Church's calendar about God as Father, Son and Holy Spirit, that is a work of the imagination in the fullest and truest sense. The question, of course, is whether the things that we imagine are true or not. So what we need, I think, and what I think Christian faith offers us, is a grounded imagination. And the reason why most children's imaginary friends tend to evaporate as they grow older is because they find that well, for a couple of reasons, I think. Firstly, they realise that nobody else shares their imaginary friend, and that is part of the appeal of having one when you're a child. But it begins to be less sustainable as you grow, and also because of the experience of life. The test of our imagination is practice. The test of our imagination is how it may be grounded in reality. What can you grow from it? Not just as an individual, but as a society and a culture. A few years ago, I wrote this in my first book around the same sort of theme. The gap between what we believe to be true and what is actually true will usually be bridged by faith, hope or love, St. Paul's trio of indestructible tools for life. The employment of one or all of these will often demonstrate whether the truth you are pursuing is real or not. If you believe in fairies, to snatch an example out of the air, then my advice is not to hold back. Rest your whole weight on their gossamer wings and see if they will carry you. Build complex fairy cities, forge Tinkerbell statues for every park, and frame your legal system with her precepts. Along the way, you'll begin to get a sense of whether she is there at all. So today, I encourage you and me to use our imagination, particularly in our prayer life, to employ that wonderful tool to behold truth, to apprehend truth, and know that the precepts of God are grounded. God bless you then as you go to ground.